Coming live from the HPU Esports Arena, powered by DSC Hawaii, on the Hawaii Pacific University campus at Aloha Tower Marketplace, here's your host, Hawaii Pacific University's Vice President and Chief Marketing Communications Officer, Jeffrey Rich.
Aloha, Sharks Nation, and welcome to another edition of Sharks Weekly, your source for all things HPU athletics. I am your host, Jeff Rich, and today we are diving into the world of acrobatics and tumbling here at Hawaii Pacific University. Joining me is the new head coach of the HPU Sharks acro and tumbling team, Daisha Paulino. Coach Paulino has brought two amazing student athletes with her today. We'll be speaking with junior Bree Corral and sophomore Giselle Hovey. We'll talk about the sport, the team's goals, the unique experience of being a student athlete here in beautiful Hawaii. But before we jump in, let's say hello to my in-studio sidekick, HPU's Assistant Director of Strategic Communications, Mr. Greg Fishbach. Greg, how are you doing?
I'm great. I'm excited about today's show, learning about acro and everything involved in the games. We don't call it a game, I'm sorry. We call it a meet. A meet. Sorry. Thank you.
A meet. So, all right. So we're both going to learn a little bit this morning. You know, what's your perception or experience with acro? Have you been able to watch the team in the past?
I have. I've seen amazing, tumbling and base and just people balancing and flipping through the air, and it's I couldn't imagine doing it myself. So I'm kind of in awe of everything that you do, and learning about how you get to do it and how you train and how you become so good at this.
Yeah, you guys are amazing athletes. I can't imagine, doing the things that you guys do out there. It's just absolutely amazing. But I also want to remind our listeners that you can text in questions to our guests, questions about the team, the season, social-related questions. Have fun with it. But that number, if you want to shoot a question to our guest today, is 808-888-5481. Again, that's 808-888-5481, and please shoot us some fun and interesting questions. Yeah. So, let's jump in and let's introduce our new head coach. So, Daisha, you have spent 2 seasons as the assistant coach at the University of Oregon from 2021 to 2023. You contributed to the team's return to the NCAA National Championship Finals in 2023. You were an assistant coach here at HPU 2018 to 2020. As a student athlete, you were a standout tumbler for the HPU Sharks, earning All-American honors in 2017 and 2018, and you helped lead the Sharks to the NCAA quarterfinals in both of those seasons. You hold a bachelor's in education, in elementary education from Hawaii Pacific University, and a Master of Arts in Coaching and Athletics Administration from Concordia University, Irvine. So welcome to the show, Coach Paulino. So you've had an incredible journey in acro and tumbling, and from your time as a student athlete to your experience coaching at the University of Oregon, and now returning as the head coach of the HPU Sharks. So what's been your coaching philosophy, and how has it evolved over time as you've moved from student athlete to coach? So tell us a little bit about your philosophy and your vision going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been a coach a long time. I've been coaching since I was 15. I came to college, like I mentioned, knowing that I would go into elementary education for the sake of learning how to work with people more so than to actually teach. So I always knew coaching was going to be in my life, in my blood, my career. I've always just believed in being the person that inspires and empowers young women. So as an assistant, as a gymnastics coach, and now as a head coach, my thing is just, this is an opportunity for women, and I want to be the person that creates just an environment where people can grow, learn, and succeed as well. So everyone that we bring into this team as freshmen, whether they're transfers, newcomers, anything like that, my goal is just to give them the time of their life here where they can leave as better people, better athletes, better family members, better sisters, daughters, that kind of stuff.
That is a great philosophy.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think it all comes with it, right? The skills, the skill set, and this comes partly with my recruiting philosophy as well, is the skills are taught. We're in an environment where we're teaching them acrobatics and tumbling, but we're really investing in them as people first. And if we invest in them as people, everything else just kind of falls with that. So that's hopefully kind of where we're going to transition this team in that idea of philosophy of culture is where we kind of are pushing really hard this year.
That's a fantastic vision, and you're continuing to pursue the culture of excellence here at HPU that we talk about with all of the coaches that we have on the show. It's one of the things that's so wonderful about HPU is we set a really high standard for everything that we do, and we develop a culture of camaraderie and excellence, and it's just a wonderful place to cultivate, not just your athletic skills, but becoming a more well-rounded person that is involved in the community and works well in any environment that you find yourself in. So let's bring our student athletes into the conversation. So you've brought two amazing student athletes, hailing from Vallejo, California. We have Bree Corral. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yes, you are.
Bree, okay. And you are a junior, as we talked about earlier. And hailing from Woodbridge, Virginia, we have Giselle Hovey. So you and I have some Virginia roots.
Right.
You spent some time, back in Woodbridge. I was in Williamsburg. Virginia's a cool place to be. I miss it sometimes.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, but I tell you, I'll take Hawaii over that. But just a couple of things about each of you. So Bree, you are a bass and top and tumbler. Your major is business management. As I mentioned, you're from Vallejo, California. And some highlights in your career, 2024 NCAA Honor Roll, and also in 2023. And a couple fun facts. Your hobbies, you're into group fitness, journaling, and relaxing on the beach like all of us here in Hawaii. What's your favorite beach?
My favorite beach right now, probably Makapu'u, over by the Lighthouse Trail.
Yes. Yes, beautiful place to be. Okay, and Giselle, so you are a bass and a tumbler. And your major, both of your majors are business management.
Yeah.
So some common focus on business. We'll delve into career aspirations here shortly. But some fun facts. Your hobbies are?
I'd say same thing as Bree, going to the beach, hanging out with my friends, stuff like that.
Same favorite beach, or do you have a different one?
I'd say mine is probably Waimea.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
beautiful.
Nice.
Yeah.
Have
Nice.
you jumped off? Have you tried to jump off the rock?
Yep,
You have?
done some flips too, off
Oh,
the
I
rock.
bet. Wow, that's impressive.
Have you really?
Yeah.
So you captured that on
Coach
video, I
know
hope?
about this?
I might be guilty of it too.
Oh,
It's
wow.
okay.
I've always wanted to do that, and I've always been scared to do that.
Can't take a gymnast or a cheerleader out there and not expect
I
them
know,
to do some
what do you-
flips, you know?
Really?
Wait a minute. So I would imagine you'd be a little cautious about
know.
having your athletes jumping off the rock.
During season, yes, I will say. But I mean, just like everyone else, like we started the sports that we did starting 2, 3, 4 years old. Like you're flipping before you
Right.
even know how to spell or read. So it does come a little more naturally for us. So yeah, as long as it's not during season,
Second nature.
it's okay. It's second nature.
So is there
Yes.
a little bit of overlap between like diving and what we're talking about today? with
Yes,
acro?
there
Yeah,
is.
there is. Okay.
A lot of gymnasts do become divers as well.
Yeah.
Whether they, diving, pole vaulting, if not cheerleading or acrobatics and tumbling, they're all kind of intermingled in the sense that there's a place for them. Yeah.
Kind of in the air flipping.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, interesting.
So Bree, as a junior with multiple honors, you're a seasoned veteran on the team. What's been your most memorable moment as an HPU Shark so far?
I believe my most memorable moment as an HPU Shark has probably been competing last year at the 2024 NCAA Nationals. I was able to do my duo tumbling pass with someone that I really looked up to a lot named Ravenna Bala, and she really helped me grow as an athlete my freshman and sophomore year and helped me emerge as a leader this year. So that was really special to me, and I hold that close to my heart.
Very nice, and I'm sure you have a wealth of amazing memories, and it's good to have a few that stand out. Giselle, welcome to the Sharks. So this is your first year here, though. You're a sophomore, correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
first year on acro.
Acro.
This year, yeah.
How's your college experience here going? Tell us a little bit about your experiences here in Hawaii.
My experiences have been very, very, perfect, honestly.
Have been perfect or not perfect?
I'd say perfect, pretty
Wow,
much.
fantastic.
I mean, I've made a lot of new friends, and starting out this year, I've made a lot of new friendships, and that I feel like I'll cherish, for my entire life, I'd say.
Yeah,
So,
it's a special place.
Yes.
There's no question. When you guys think about what it is that attracted you to Hawaii and to HPU, what comes to mind? What stood out and gave you a strong desire to want to come here and compete?
Mainly, my reason for coming out here was to cheer, because I've been an all-star cheerleader for mainly my whole life since I was 3 years old.
Okay.
I was born into the sport, pretty much. So
You have family roots in the sport?
yeah, my mom was a cheerleader and she coaches cheerleading as well, right as of right now too. But I originally came out here to cheer on the HPU cheer team and to go to the NCAA nationals or nationals in Florida, Daytona, Florida, and being in Hawaii, I feel like was a plus. So
yeah, Virginia's got a pretty good lifestyle. I remember I was in coastal Virginia, not far from Virginia Beach. It's nice, but boy, it still gets cold there, and you still get a winter and some snow, and you can enjoy things all year round in Hawaii, and that's really attractive, I think.
Yeah.
So
very much so.
So in terms of team dynamics, you have a lot of new athletes this year, coming off some really strong seasons the last couple years. How has the team come together, and have you guys pursued any team bonding activities that have really created chemistry among the student athletes?
Absolutely. So there was actually, before I came in August, obviously, the senior class from last year was really big. They graduated a lot of them out. We only have, we have 5 newcomers right now, 4 of which are freshmen, and then 1 sophomore. So a kind of smaller, I would say, recruiting class than I'm accustomed to.
Okay.
But with the 21 that we have on the athletes, athletes we have on the team, I think that just because it is such a small group this year, that we have had a lot more time to dive into the cohesion, the culture, the friendships, just the connection and stuff like that. So we've done a couple team bonding things right now. Our first thing of the year was we went to Makapu'u Lighthouse Trail, met at a nice brisk 6 in the morning, did a walk up there. We've done some team building activities. We call it hold the rope. If you've ever heard of that concept, holding the rope for one another, that kind of thing. It was a really awesome activity where they were in small groups. They talked to each other. We do have team bonding coming up next Monday. They don't know what it is yet, so I'm not going to say it out loud. It is a surprise for them, but we will be going out doing something with nature and some local supporters that we have out here that we've kind of incorporated into our team for the last few years. So part of bringing back a lot of the traditions we used to do back in the day.
Wow, so good things in store and some fun activities.
I would imagine that team bonding would be so important in this sport because you're literally holding each other up, right? Like
absolutely.
Everybody's so important, right? Because somebody could really get injured, right? So team bonding's probably vital.
Yes, relationships are extremely important,
right.
Especially you have your pairings, right? You have your top and your base, or you have your base groups.
Right.
So knowing who you work well with, how you work together, and creating more space for them to have the time to get to know one another on a deeper level really, really helps.
Yeah.
Well, hold that thought because we do have to take a quick commercial break here. But before we do, I want to give a big thank you to one of our amazing sponsors, Outrigger Resorts and Hotels. Hawaii-based Outrigger Resorts and Hotels is proud to support the collegiate athletes of Hawaii Pacific University. You're listening to Sharks Weekly. I'm your host, Jeff Rich, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to Sharks Weekly on the Hawaii Sports Radio Networks, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
And we are back on this beautiful Thursday morning here at the wonderful, beautiful campus of Hawaii Pacific University. We are at the eSports Arena powered by DSE Hawaii, and we are talking acrobatics and tumbling this morning. So, Daisha, let's come back to the sport itself. I'm sure some of our listeners are not that familiar with what acro and tumbling is all about as a competitive sport. Can you give us a sense and explain what the sport is all about and what sets it apart from, say, traditional gymnastics?
Absolutely. So acrobatics and tumbling, like you said, is very unique. It started, say, 12, 13-ish years ago as just a brainchild from some really amazing women leaders in our sport who identified a need for more scholarship opportunities for women. So you come from gymnastics where rosters are really small. And nowadays, gymnastics, collegiate gymnastics specifically, you have a lot of really high-level elite athletes who are moving up and going into the NCAA world, not really making space for other typical gymnasts. And then cheerleading, as we know, is a sport where, although we consider it a sport, it's a very, very difficult world to live in. It's not necessarily recognized as a sport in every single university that they're at. So they said, let's make a sport for ourselves. Let's make a place where we can hold a lot of people from different backgrounds and just bring more scholarship opportunities to universities. So with that being said, that's kind of how we started as a sport. We were petitioning for emerging sports status for a really long time. We are now an emerging sport within the NCAA, which is amazing. But the way it differs from traditional gymnastics is you have your vault, your bars, your beam, your floor. Right? We are on a floor. It's called a quote-unquote dead mat, meaning that there are no springs. It's a 2-inch piece of foam, and our girls are expected essentially to tumble, to flip, to do all these things with 2 inches of foam protecting them.
So in traditional gymnastics, there's a spring under that mat?
Yes.
I didn't
So
know
traditional gymnastics it's spring, it's wood, it's foam, it's carpet. There's a lot more under there.
Wow, well, it's so less impressive now to know that they're jumping off the springboards.
Yeah, I mean, it is impressive in some ways, but I mean, our athletes are
Not
doing...
your athletes. You're jumping
Yes.
off just a foam mat. I'm
Right.
talking about the gymnastics.
Yeah, so I
tumblers.
mean, they're tumbling. They're doing some of the stuff that gymnasts do without springs at all, which means they have to be stronger, tighter, faster, a lot more technically sound as well.
Is there
So-
a reason why they don't use like springs under the under the floor? Or?
Yeah, I think it was kind of a convenience factor in the beginning. It was like, what can we do where we're not really bringing in all this super expensive apparatus? We're not having to set up a whole competition format, all that kind of stuff. We have 9 rolls of mats. You can pick them up, you can roll them out, you put it together with Velcro, and that's your meet.
Wow. Okay.
Hmm.
Wow.
Impressive, right?
Yeah. Like I said, my jaw
yeah,
drops whenever
I
I
know.
see you guys out there.
Yeah.
But let's come back to something we were touching on earlier, and that's the trust factor. I imagine that you have to have a heck of a lot of trust in your teammates
Right.
with the acrobatics that you're performing out there. What does that feel like, and how do you develop that level of trust? And have there been times through either of your careers where perhaps you were let down a little bit?
Trust is definitely such a huge thing on our team, and with being a roster of only 21 athletes, I think our trust has definitely developed a lot stronger than it has in the past couple of years. Me personally, I've been working with my lovely bass, her name is Keahi, for 2 years now, so I've really gotten to get to know her as a human and as an athlete, and that really helps translate to what we put out on the mat, feeling more confident, feeling more trust in her to get me around, get me where I need to be. And another thing that our team really likes to do is we really talk to each other. So even when you have someone in your hands in the air, you're telling them, I got you, I trust you, you can do this. And it seems silly in the moment, but it really helps to hear that when you're in somebody's hands. So that's how we build some trust.
I have a question kind of related to that. I'm thinking you're in the air, you're tumbling, you're flipping. How do you remain focused? Do you ever worry for a split second you're thinking about a homework assignment or something? You know what I mean? I just can't. You're literally in the air. Does that ever happen, or it just never? You're always focused. And how do you stay so focused?
Sometimes
How do you do that?
Sometimes I just don't have a thought in my mind, or I'll just knock on my head to not
Right.
think, because if I think too much about either a certain skill, I'll start to get in my head and I'll freak out a
Yeah,
little bit. But
right.
as long as I'm cool, calm, and collected, I'm chill. I can do whatever I need to do.
Same for you. Just how do you stay so laser focused?
I'm a big affirmations girl, so before I tumble, I get in my position and I tell myself I got this, and then I go, and it happens so fast that you kind of just blank, but then you finish and
Right.
it's nice and fun.
I guess it's just all of those years of just practicing and meets, and you're just in the zone. It's kind of a little bit like golf, maybe.
I think it's
Where
probably a lot. I mean, you
have to be
just
so focused, right?
And it's you're with other people performing, but knowing what you have to do and staying focused on your goals and objectives as part of that overall competition has got to be a tough thing to do with all of the requirements and
Right.
athletics and movements involved in it. It's a remarkable thing to witness, and I think people that don't have that that might be good athletes but could never fathom doing the sort of things that you guys do, the stunts.
Right.
It's just a remarkable thing to witness. So you draw, though, athletes. So you mentioned gymnastics as a draw. Do you also have crossovers from, say, cheerleading? Is that also a so what's the combination? What makes somebody look at acro and tumbling as a primary sport, maybe if they started out as a gymnastics person or on the cheer side?
I think so. Everybody's reasoning is different, right? Personally, I found acro accidentally graduating out of high school, not knowing what I wanted to do. Gymnast for 17 years. I'm like, well, what's left? But I knew I was a tumbler, and they're like, hey, HPU brought this program. They're 1 year old and they need someone to tumble. So I walked in and said, okay, I can tumble. That's genuinely, I wish it was more deep and thought out than that, but that's how I started. But now that acro's kind of better known, you have gymnasts out there who say they compete on everything. They have to do the vault, the bars, the beam, the floor. But they may not necessarily be as well-rounded or strong in certain events. So you have someone that can do everything, but their strength lies in their tumbling or their power or just their lines, and they're like, this is something that's better suited for my skill set. Okay. And same for the cheerleaders. For the most part, cheerleaders are a lot more well-rounded and do more of the things that we do on a day-to-day basis with the stunts as well as the tumbling. But because we don't just recruit people who can do everything, you have bases who are tops even that were cheerleaders in the past, and just their skill set and the things that they are more interested in aligns with our skills and the things that we do instead.
Very cool. Bree and Giselle, did you guys play other sports as you were growing up? Did you do other things? And so give us a little bit of your athletic history.
Yeah, so I didn't play any other sport growing up. It was just solely cheer, pretty much. I did have a thought of maybe just quitting cheer and maybe joining track, because I'd say I was pretty fast back in high school and middle school.
Distance or sprinting? What?
Sprinting.
Okay.
No long distance. Definitely not a long distance runner, but yeah, I'd say I was a pretty good track star.
Okay, but you had some family influence, as you said earlier, so maybe your sport of destiny was predetermined, it sounds like.
Oh yeah, for sure. When my mom was coaching her high school cheer team at the time, I'd always be in the gym with her. They'll probably put me up in a stunt, throw me up in the air, and I'll be tumbling on the side, just flipping, doing whatever.
Wow. And you loved it from day one? It was always something you knew that you would be into, huh?
Honestly, yeah. And I some days were hard of me being a cheerleader, and I just wanted to up and quit, but then you just get drawn back into it somehow.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Nice. Well, Bree, what about your journey? Tell us about your athletic journey and other sports maybe that you were interested in earlier in life.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started gymnastics at the age of 4. I was fortunate enough that my mom put me in nice and early. Did it all the way up until my sophomore year of high school. Once COVID hit, I started to fall out of love with it just a little bit, but I knew that my strength lied in my tumbling and my power, like Coach said. So I looked to all-star cheerleading. However, the closest gym to me was 2 hours away. So I made that commute for my last 2 years of high school to and from practice, just because I knew that I wanted to do acro, and being well-rounded as a gymnast and as a cheerleader, I knew I could put my best foot forward doing that.
Nice. Now, is Vallejo, is that near LA or
closer to San Francisco?
Yes. Between and Sacramento. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, those are interesting journeys, and I think as a parent, I know with my 4 kids, I tried to figure out what sports and they'd be good at. I probably let some of my personal biases get in the way. I think I've told the story before where I've kind of pushed my sons anyway to play football when they probably would have excelled at other sports. My younger son in particular is an amazing hockey player, but growing up in Minnesota, it's like acro and tumbling. I imagine you have to get on the floor at a very early age and get acclimated. In Minnesota, the state of hockey, you got to be skating when you're 3 or 4 years old, or you're not going to be competitive in that state as a hockey player.
So, Coach, if a player wants to get involved in the sport, do they have to start when they're young, like 4 or 5, or can they start when they're older?
Not necessarily.
They can start.
I think it's very common for us to start that early. Just
Right.
the nature of the sport of gymnastics, cheerleading. It's just
You need
that
so much hours, right?
so much hours, so much time, and the earlier you start, the better it is. But it is also very common to find those diamonds out there who start at 8, 9, or 10, and they may have just had an affinity for something, they didn't realize it, and they jumped in later, and they just got really lucky on that part. So yeah, not necessarily. Obviously, it helps in so many ways just to have that many years of experience. But
And the natural ability to do this, right? Because not everybody could do this. Right? It really takes a natural talent, an amazing talent to do this.
Absolutely.
And you have probably at a young age, maybe is that how it was for both of you? You knew at a young age, I'm really good at this, I can excel.
Yep.
And I think part of that too is that you start at such a young age, and parents and coaches see that.
Right.
And that's kind of where you stay with your sport, is because you're also being told from coaches and from family members that they're really talented, they're really good, they're really strong. So you don't really venture out, I would say, to other sports because you already are so proficient in something as so young.
All right.
Yeah, but but it takes more than talent. I mean, I would imagine with this type of sport, you just got to love it, right? Otherwise, a fear factor could, set in. It's like, being a great hitter in baseball, but if you're afraid of the ball, you're going to bail out on a curve every time, and you're never going to achieve your full potential. Okay, hey, we got to take another quick commercial break, but another big shout out to one of our sponsors for Sharks Weekly, Equus. The Equus is Waikiki's best lifestyle boutique hotel. Enjoy big savings year-round at a prime location. Many thanks to Equus for sponsoring Sharks Weekly. I am your host, Jeff Rich. We're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back.
You're listening to Sharks Weekly on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Networks, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
And we're back live in studio at the eSports Arena powered by DSE Hawai'i. We are talking with the HPU Sharks acro and tumbling team. So, Daisha, let's talk a bit about community engagement. And recently, the team showcased their talent at the HHSAA State Cheering Championships. How important is it for the Sharks to connect with the local community and to grow awareness of the sport?
Well, it's extremely important, of course. I mean, obviously, I would love for us to be even more involved within the community. Coming back and even reflecting on the early years of this program, I think we were really rooted in tradition, and we were really rooted in our relationships with locals, local families, local clubs, local teams, that kind of thing. So coming back in August, I think one of my very first things that I said as the head coach here at HPU, I wanted to put effort into recreating those local, those bonds, those ties. So we did the state cheerleading championships, and that was kind of our first step into kind of showcasing to the local cheer community who we are, what we do, and pretty much telling them that there is a place for them here at HPU as well. As of right now, we actually don't have any local kids on our team.
Really? Okay.
Yes. So that's where when we talk about community engagement, it's really big this year. Like, we really want to start putting more effort towards that. Recruiting, activities, service, community service, anything like that. Like, that was our very first time in many years that we did anything around the local community, that kind of thing. And it actually worked out really well. We've had a bunch of recruits and people just interested in our program reach out after the fact and say that they were there, they saw us, and they think that what acrobatics and tumbling is more better, like more well suited for their skill set than what they had thought would have been cheer in the past. So we're getting there.
Okay. Now, so you stepped in as head coach, though. Did you have a chance to initiate recruiting when you came in, or did you have to kind of live with what had been how the table had been set for you coming in this year?
I inherited a whole team. My first day officially was maybe 5 days before the start of school. So I inherited a team. We said we're gonna come in, we're gonna do whatever it is we do this year, and we're gonna make the best of it. And that's where next year I've been recruiting. That's my favorite part of the job besides coaching itself, is just making the connections, the relationships with those recruits and those potential athletes. So we're really trying to build a really good recruiting class coming in next year. Really get those numbers, get a bunch of athletes with various backgrounds. So right now we're looking at cheerleaders, the gymnasts, even we have a couple acrobatic gymnasts. If you've ever heard of acrobatics, they're trying to come in as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about as you sort of refocus the program on community connections? Do you have other community engagement events on the horizon, or things that you're thinking about instituting?
Absolutely. And go back to tradition, right? I think it's really important to create relationships with certain groups, people, efforts, and try to do those on a regular basis. So coming in so late, I tried my best to get some things on the calendar, but they were booked out.
Okay.
But I think there's some things that we did. I think culturally speaking, I know I've had feedback from our upperclassmen as well, hoping to kind of just get to know Hawaii a little better, to understand the culture, to learn, to cultivate as a team. So finding team bonding opportunities that we can do team bonding, but still learn about where we live and stuff. So right now I have 2 different local Hawaiian nonprofit groups that I'm working with to try to schedule it for next year, because they were a year out, but hoping we have like the low E patches, taking them in there where they can cultivate the kalo, sit down, learn about the Hawaiian values and how we can apply that to our team as well.
Nice. Well, let's talk a bit about the season ahead. So you've got some exciting things on the horizon. You've got a match against, I think, Azusa Pacific on February 11th.
Yes.
Coming up. What are your thoughts heading into that match and really initiating the season and getting rolling with things? What's your sense of excitement? Do you see the team as strong and balanced coming off strong performances in prior seasons? But just give us a sense of what you guys are looking at in terms of the schedule ahead.
I think this season is very special for us because, as Coach has mentioned, we lost a big senior class last year, so this feels like a big rebuilding year for us. A lot of people are trying new positions, trying new things, and really stepping up to the plate to really show what we're capable of. But I think a word to describe our team this season is hungry. Like, we want to come back and show that we're stronger than what we put out there in the past couple of years. But yeah, I think we're all really excited to show up and show out on February 11th against Azusa. Right now we're just working on honing in our events, our heats, and really gaining confidence with each other. Yeah.
You've also got matches coming up against, I think it's Glenville State and Augustana. How does it feel to compete when you're here in Hawaii versus going on the road? Do you feel, a benefit? Do you feel support from the HPU community? But what's that experience been like versus going out into another school's domain and competing?
I think competing at home is really a unique experience, especially because a lot of teams do come on their spring break, so they bring a lot of their family, and it's really fun to just see the whole community of everybody who loves acro. But this year I think I'd like to really focus on more engagement from the HPU community. I think we're still very unheard of. A lot of people, when we bring up acro, weren't too sure that we even had that at this school, so I really want to get our name out there, get people to our home games, because I think it's something that the students would really love and really appreciate, and we bring a lot of energy to our meets, so getting our name out there this season is huge.
And you have 5 events in about a month, so that's pretty amazing. So that's like almost around one a week. So how do you get ready for that week after week? Is that a good thing, or is that kind of like, I wish I had more time? Like, is it good to have so many events in that span of time?
I mean, personally, I haven't done a meet yet, but I feel like to keep our bodies like in shape and ready to go, we have to make sure we're eating right, getting our exercise in the gym, and nutrition is a big thing because if you're not fueling your bodies, you're going to be not ready, I guess.
That's another question we kind of discussed.
Yeah.
Like, training and nutrition is probably a huge part of this sport. So how do you do that? I mean, how do you every week, like, do you watch everything that you eat? How does it work?
I mean, me personally, I could be a lot better at what I'm eating, at watching what I'm eating, but I ask my parents on advice for nutrition because they're both bodybuilders. So they know something about nutrition.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
And what about you? Same thing, just like really watching everything?
Yeah, really trying to get back into my nutrition focus.
Right.
But we have an amazing teammate. Her name's Anina, and she is an amazing. She has an amazing Instagram profile where she posts recipes that are healthy and fuel your body, and I sometimes follow some of those, and it really helps us.
And what is the best thing an athlete can eat, you think, Coach? Underrated meal that you'd say, like...
That's a good one.
Chicken breast or something like that? Or
chicken
eggs?
rice.
Protein.
Yeah.
Something with protein.
Heavy protein.
Yeah. Protein. Yeah,
Okay.
something.
Maybe some carbs.
Maybe some carbs in there, yeah. I mean, that's where I always tell them, I'm like, obviously, it's always a team goal. We have goals every month, and one of them that we've been putting for the last couple months is to prioritize personal nutrition.
Yeah.
And I do think that does look different for each person in some ways. So for some people, prioritizing nutrition is reminding themselves to eat breakfast in the morning, to recover and fuel yourselves after practice, that kind of thing. Whereas for some people, it's meal prepping. Some people, it's eating better food. So it really just depends. But yeah, the goal, I mean, ideally, is they do put a lot of stress on their bodies. So just to be able to fuel their bodies as best as possible is ideal.
Yeah.
Bree and Giselle, did you guys, even at earlier ages, high school or even before, focused on nutrition? I know when I think back about my youth and, all the sports I played, we did not think about nutrition.
Different
the
sport,
coach would give you, you'd have Coke during halftime at a football game, right?
But it's probably completely different, right, for this sport, like
Yeah.
compared to, football or basketball.
Yeah. I mean, really, to be completely honest, I did not care really much about what I was feeling my body with when I was back in high school cheering. But yeah, my parents got on me a little bit. They're like, you need to start actually like eating something good for you and not just like ramen noodles every day.
Okay.
But yeah,
It's an amazing difference you feel, and just you don't think about that when you're young. You're indestructible. You have boundless energy.
Exactly.
You don't need it. And but boy, it just you feel so much better when you think and are careful and considered in what you put in your body. And everything starts with nutrition.
Sure.
Your energy in sports, your health, your mental outlook. It really is the key to health and longevity.
But it goes back to that laser focus of like, just being on everything that you do in this sport, eating and training, and making sure each meet, each event, you're a tip-top shape.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, hey, just a reminder before we get to our last segment, if there's anybody out there that wants to text in a question for our guests, that number again is 808-888-5481. I believe we have at least a question or two in. But let's before we jump to our commercial break, I want to talk a bit about your career aspirations. So you guys are both business administration majors. Do you have plans for post graduation? Maybe Bree, maybe you go first.
So mine is actually pretty closely tied to Coach Daisha here. She's been a big inspiration in what I want to do with my future career. I've known from a young age that I wanted to stay in acro because I just love this sport so much. So I also want to pursue a career in coaching. So after I receive my degree, I want to go to get a master's in coaching and athletics administration. And really see where I can go from there.
Nice. Well, be sure you talk with AD Debbie Snell, because I think we could use more talented athletics administrators here at HPU. We've got an amazing group of coaches, but we could always bring more, and especially people that grew up in the HPU environment.
Absolutely.
So, Giselle, what about you? What are your career aspirations?
To be honest, I'm not too sure what I want to do in the future with my business degree, but I have been coaching cheerleading on the side back at home during breaks. I'd be coaching tumbling classes for the younger cheerleaders, so maybe I'll probably go into that field a little bit after college, but I'm still on the fence, or like it's up in the air.
Yeah, we got a little time to figure it out.
Sophomore. Yeah.
Sophomore.
You got a lot
You
of
have time.
What about, do you plan to move back to Virginia? Do you want to stay in Hawaii as long as you can? What are you thinking geographically?
Geographically, I'll probably stay where I'm staying at currently is in California.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been there since like 2014.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll probably stay around there. It's pretty nice for weather.
Nice. All right, well, I'm getting told here that we've got one more commercial break. So before we do, just a quick call out for HPU. So today's episode of Sharks Weekly is brought to you by Hawaii Pacific University's Holamua Commitment. HPU puts a private college education in reach by guaranteeing admission and at least a $15,000 scholarship for high school students with a 2.75 GPA or higher. Guaranteed admission, guaranteed scholarship. Visit hpu.edu/affordable for details. And we are doing Sharks Weekly this morning here at the Esports Arena. I am your host, Jeff Rich, and we will be right back.
You're listening to Sharks Weekly on the Hawaii Sports Radio Networks, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
And we are back. We are talking acro and tumbling here on this beautiful Thursday morning. So, hey, before we get back into the conversation, Paul, I think we got a couple of text questions in.
If I bring my mic down a little bit. We do actually have one, and once again, if anybody is trying to get a last-minute question in, the number is 808-888-5481. But we got one, and it was right at the start of the show, so hope you're still tuned in. It's why is HPU's acro and tumbling team different from others? And I kind of took that in a couple of ways, different from other HPU programs and also different from other acro and tumbling programs. And I'm just kind of curious, Coach, if you want to start us out maybe in terms of just comparatively to other acro programs across the country.
Absolutely. HPU is unique. I will speak on the culture first, as always. We have the privilege to be here in Hawaii where there is a culture. Like, we are not just walking into any state and saying, hey, there's a program in a school. Like, there is an actual living culture here that we get to tie into our program. So when I'm recruiting, when we talk to the team, like everything that we do is rooted in the fact that there are values, there's feelings, there's emotion towards where we live and appreciation towards the fact that we live here. So I think that is something that we have uniquely that other programs will never actually be able to also experience. I know Bree mentioned something a little bit differently though, as far as like our program and why it's different too. So if you want to hit on that.
Yeah, with a smaller team this year, I think a lot of our players are very versatile. So we have bases that also go in the air, tops that tumble, bases that tumble. So everybody kind of plays every single role on the team. Like you have big shoes to fill, and you have to step up and really be there for your team.
Yeah, I think, Daisha, you nailed it. I don't think that folks that live on the mainland truly appreciate how different it is out here. I mean, there's a different language, there is a unique culture, and you feel part of that very quickly when you come here, and you appreciate that.
Exactly.
With that in mind, have you guys been able to participate or get yourself involved in any of the cultural recreational activities and things like hula, outrigger canoe paddling, anything like that that's hit your radar?
Not quite yet, but I did take a class my freshman year called The Living History of Hawaii, and that was very impactful on how I view the island and what a sacred space it is, sacred land. And yeah, it really helped my appreciation.
Was that with Professor Askman?
It was, yes.
Yeah, isn't he great?
He's amazing, yeah. The field trips were amazing. I got to visit the palace and Queen Emma's summer home. So just lots of field trips that were really insightful that I needed to see before continuing to live
great
here.
Class.
Yeah. What about you, Giselle?
I haven't really done much personally, but I did also take a class. It was a philosophy class for Hawaiian. I forgot what it was called. It's my bad. But we really got into the culture aspect and their religion, really. So I got to learn a whole lot about that and how Hawaii came to be.
Yeah,
I guess, yeah.
It is a unique place.
It is.
Do either of you have any, special hidden gem spots that you've, figured out that you go to recharge or, go that it's just an extra special place for you?
I haven't found any.
No? Other than your favorite beach, I assume, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what about you, Coach? What favorite hidden gem you can think of?
Hidden gems.
Yeah.
I'm from the west side.
Okay.
First and foremost.
Okay.
So I prefer to stay out there and not make the trek to town if I can help it.
Okay.
I like to go all the way out west, though. If you go all the way past towards, almost like Makua Caves, almost to Yokohama, but, right in the middle, there's this little, right before the bend to Yokohama, there's this little tide pool area. So the sand's really nice. The kids can play. I have a 3-year-old that likes to just run into waves.
It sounds like a quiet spot, maybe.
It's a quiet spot. It's a really good spot. The
Yeah.
sunset's right in front of you. But yeah, it keeps my kids safe, and he can play, and it's perfect. It's quiet. Yeah,
Might have to check that out.
it is.
Okay.
I recommend it.
What about, or if there isn't a special place, this is for Bree and Giselle, is there an unexpected joy that you've, achieved here? Something that you didn't expect about either your college experience or living here in Hawaii that really turned out to be just an amazing highlight?
I feel like just the people everywhere have been very nice, very welcoming, and I just found, I felt at home. And being 1,000 miles away from home, you're like, oh, miss my family, very far apart, literally overseas. So it was nice to feel at home, being welcomed here on the island. So yeah.
I think from my perspective, I gained a routine being a student athlete. So we practice really early in the mornings, going from 6 to 8 or 6 to 9 a.m. And then after that, sometimes I'll go straight to work or from practice straight to class. So really setting that routine and keeping myself busy has helped me realize what I'm capable of, and also helped me learn to set my boundaries. So.
Yeah. You mentioned what a welcoming place it is. It is a place that makes you feel at home almost immediately. And one of the things that I felt most, impactful things that I felt when I got here was just the pace is different. The pace is slower in a good way, and it lets you be more considered and intentional. There's a spirit of aloha that runs through Hawaii that you feel as a part of this community. And those are all the things that make this an amazing place to go to school, to live, to work, and I think all of us feel that appreciation every single day living here. Greg,
agree.
what
I
about
agree.
you? Is there something you've been here a long time?
I'm from here.
Yeah, I'm from here. So you've
A long time.
Long time.
What stands out to you as a person who's spent their entire life here?
I think outdoor activities. For me, it was playing tennis or baseball or swimming. So just being outside and enjoying the weather. Especially now as I'm getting older, like I really want to get out more. And I really want to see more beaches and more hikes and get out more and more. So I think when I was younger, maybe kind of took it for granted a little bit. But kind of as you get older, you're like, oh man, I really wish I could get out more, like I could have done in high school. And it's just so beautiful. Every day it's just beautiful here.
Yep. Coach?
Yeah, no, I mean, he hit it right on the head. I think you don't really realize how special of a place it is when you're growing up here, and you really do take advantage of the fact that you can just go to the beach every day. So same, I came back after living in Oregon for a couple of years and realized like how special of a place it was and how privileged we are to be here, and that's just something that now we try to instill in the girls every single day.
Yep.
Yeah,
Well,
never get tired of it.
Never get tired of
Never.
it.
There's always going to be a new spot to see on the different islands you can go to. So
Yeah.
there'll always be something new.
Yeah, I know one of the things I struggled with, I had it last Sunday, was the push-pull between wanting to stay home and watch the NFL playoffs during the day and getting out. So just as before we break, I'm sorry, Greg, but your Super Bowl
Steelers are out.
prediction
Well, I got to go with
is
the Chiefs
gone.
now.
All right, well, you did pick the Steelers, though. So they're
I
out.
got to go with the Chiefs now.
And Paul, I forget, who was your pick? You were...
I think I was the Ravens.
Ravens.
I think I took the Ravens, so I'm good
So
for
this
now.
is a
All right.
good Ravens Bills.
Paul and I have Ravens, Eagles. I had Ravens, Eagles in the Super Bowl, and both are still alive. But I am going to send good energy to my Buffalo Bills and hope that Josh Allen can pull it out and take the Ravens down, and then on to Kansas City. All right, well, guys, I want to thank the HPU Acro and Tumbling team for being our guests this morning, and I wish you guys the best of luck as you head into the season, and hopefully we will have you all back here on a future show, and we can talk more about this amazing sport.
Thank you.
Everybody have a wonderful week, and we will catch you next Thursday on Sharks Weekly.